Hi, I'm Liana, Holistic Intimacy Coach. Welcome to my YouTube or Vimeo channel. Here we talk about all things sexuality, not necessarily your most frequent, most sought out there topics, but ones that you need. And today's gonna be about aging and progressing in our lives and how we go about our intimacy. This is important, believe it or not. So here's the rundown of everything. First of all, the context in which I bring up this topic, and in this context also the wider scenery from which I look at things, just so that you know this is not a topic that is related just to sexuality. We're going to look at it from this perspective, but you might benefit on other areas of your lives. Secondly, I'm going to look at physical health and physical condition. Third, I'm going to look at psycho-emotional health and mental sharpness, emotional management, and so on. Third, or the third pillar that I'm going to look at is what you see yourself as, your view or your image of yourself. And last but not least, I'm just going to call it game on always. All right. So that being said, let's look at the context first of all. I've been working on this topic for a while, and I've had a few cues, let's say, with this particular topic throughout the years. It's not just recent. So I'm going to take it chronologically. A few years back, I was reading interviews with famous actresses like Sharon Stone and Gina Davis and Charlize Theron also. And there was a lot of talk about age at a certain point. How women after a specific age, Michelle Pfeiffer also. So women after a specific age, they are not being given the beautiful, positive roles. They were sort of the witchy, evil empresses, evil mothers and, all that. Because they were aging, and because you somehow have wrinkles on your face, or your face goes a bit flat, or the hairline is receding and you have white hairs and so on, all of a sudden in Hollywood you turn into this evil looking thing, as if age is an evil thing. And it is known that Hollywood does have some pedophile tendencies. Let's call it as it is. It is true. Okay, we are a society that kind of, I don't want to get into that. That's a different topic. The second round of meeting this subject was when I tried to help a colleague a few years back. She was 43 at the time. She wanted to find a second job. So I approached a headhunter for her. I gave that headhunter my colleague's CV. And I received feedback, and I was asked not to pay it forward at the time, that the headhunter would do her best because this woman had a lot of qualities. But I needed to know that since at the time she was already 43, she was considered by many employers old. And people don't want to hire old people. As if being 43 all of a sudden means you're incapacitated and you can't work, you can't think, you can't come up with brilliant ideas. Or maybe it was just with the financial part, because older people older, not old, okay? They kind of know what they're worth, and they don't have a problem to ask for higher income, whereas people in their 20s, people in their 30s, they still don't have that part figured out yet, or used to not have that part figured out yet, and they ask for a lot of money, or actually they don't ask for a lot of money, and that's why employers prefer younger people, so in their 20s, in their 30s. Let's just say it, they don't know their worth. Okay, and the last, or the most recent setting that I've had was with I started dating again. I told myself, why don't I go out there and play a bit? And I'm meeting a lot of guys who are already in their 40s. So I'm looking for older guys, older than I am. A lot of them I gotta tell you, I was shocked. Because they're in their 40s, they consider themselves too old to become parents. As if your child's gonna be 20 and you're gonna be 60, that's a bad thing. Okay, so yeah, that's what I noticed. And this time it comes from men, not women. Okay, the previous two was mostly with women because that was my interaction. This third one comes from guys. And I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? And apparently in the dating scene also, when it comes to women, I was listening to a woman therapist who has her YouTube channel, and she was speaking, mentioning, not giving names, about some of her clients who are already in their 40s and they are single, they are dating or seeking to date, but they are being cast aside in many cases because they are seen by men as being too old, so not desirable. Obviously, there are many women in their 40s who are happily dating and receiving a lot of, attention and so on. Probably even older women. I think you've seen on YouTube, there are Fabulous 50 channel, and I don't know, a lot of women in their 50s have their YouTube channels and they speak about all the stuff that they go through, how they take care of their health, how they try to slow down their aging process and so on. And so not everybody in their 40s, 50s is having a rough time with this, but some people are, and it's because they are seen as too old. So this is the context. And in this entire thing, which landed recently, I was like, okay, but what does make us old? Is it the signs of aging, or is it something else, maybe? So you know me, I definitely went to the stuff that is much deeper within, and I came up with the 4 pillars. So let's look at the first one. First of all, physical condition, physical health, and all stuff body related. Yes, your body's gonna... by the way, if you're 20, let me tell you, you are old compared to when you were 5. Your body aged. Even if you don't consider, because you look at people who are white-haired and so on, still, your body aged. It always ages. It never sits still or stands still. What the heck? So that's first thing that you need to know. So according to your age, it does make sense that you keep it in the best shape possible and best physical condition or medical condition possible also. Now, because we're going to look at intimacy here, I'm just going to focus on my topic. But remember that if you look at one thing when it comes to aging, you're going to address your entire life, obviously. So that means, having your proper lifestyle adjusted to your biological age, and also checking yourself overall to see how your metabolism, body, health, blood tests and all that, how it is and what it needs. Super important. When it comes to sexuality though, I'm going to focus on 2 important things. The first one is hormonal health, because the reproductive system is also based on hormones, and it's driven a lot through hormones. And the second thing that I'm going to look at is our pelvic floor, or let me call it differently, our sex muscles. Yes, the pelvic floor is an entire area of muscles, and those are the muscles that you use when you engage sexually. So when it comes to aging, first of all, hormones. As I said before, we are constantly aging. We're never youthing, we're always aging from a biological perspective, and that's the natural progression. Your hormonal balance is going to change according to your age. So I'm going to ask you the first thing here. Have you considered checking out periodically, once a year, once several years, your hormonal your hormonal system and how you are hormonally? Testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. Are you ever going to consider this for a chance? And also taking a look at your entire reproductive system. Whether you're a man or a woman, it does make sense to know every now and then if it's all cool. Obviously, since you're dating, I'm not even going to go into this, but just mention it briefly. Your habitual routine checkups, that makes sense to have. I know for people who are dating, that's extreme. Come on, you hook up with many people throughout time, and it wouldn't be economically wise to get yourself tested every time you change a partner. But aside from that test, which is important, even if you do it once several years, hormonal checkups. And then with those checkups, have you considered seeking a hormonal technician and have them look at your diet and at your lifestyle and perhaps suggest some adjustments that will help you if you have any particularities, or if not, just keep your hormonal system in check and cultivate it for the long run, that hormonal health. It makes sense. A lot of people who do this are those seeking to get pregnant or have a baby. That's part of both the mother and the father go through these checkups. But if you just want to look at yourself throughout your aging process, totally worth looking into. And the second thing, pelvic floor, your sex muscles. I know that many people don't yet work out to keep themselves fit, shape, flexible, pain-free, and so on. That's an entire mindset on its own. And when it comes to intimacy, I'm guessing that very few people realize the importance of their sex muscles. Okay, again, women who are pregnant, preparing to give birth, they definitely look at that. And perhaps women who have had prolapse, or maybe guys who have had anal prolapse, that's possible too, yes. They do look at their pelvic floor health. They have to. But if you are somebody who wants to live their intimate lives in the long run, they're going to look at their pelvic floor health. Yeah, it makes sense to take care of the muscles that you actually use in intimacy, right? Do you disagree? I didn't think so. So pelvic floor health, that means having your pelvic floor specialist consult you and see if everything is in check, or let's say you're not suffering from rigidity or loose muscles or any other early sign of a condition in the future. And then have yourself a routine for your pelvic floor. Women, ladies, I have that in the Sex Dojo for women. It's a full, complete pelvic floor workout, and you don't have to do it every single day. My proposal there is once a week, but the idea is that you stick to it. Obviously, when you're menstruating, that's your week off. You let your body do whatever it needs to do. For guys, best to do with a man who actually realizes the importance of pelvic floor health and understands that muscle is also important to keep in shape, massage, stretch, work out, tone, and so on. I'm not talking here about advanced or extreme stuff. Pelvic floor weightlifting is a thing, but it also makes sense to use common sense. So heavy vaginal or heavy testicular weightlifting, no way, none of that. So I'm not talking about that. I know that's a thing. I know it exists. I'm looking at just mild stuff, okay? Reasonable stuff for the tiny muscle that it is. Number 2, your psycho-emotional health and your mental sharpness, emotional balance. So as we age, we obviously go through a lot of stuff, and we have to handle a lot of misjudgment or judgment, basically, referred to the context that I presented before. So that being said, you can also, especially if you're like the women in their 40s that I mentioned in the context part, and you're gonna find yourself being cast aside or put aside because you're too old, and that may happen when you're 40, when you're 50, so that may happen throughout, from now on, let's say. Some people might think of you as old. well, you're gonna need your psycho-emotional health in check, because that's not easy to handle. You know, you wanna foster a certain kind of connection and people push you aside. Sometimes the weird thing is that even people your own age, there are many people who seek much younger partners, not because it's not fostered always from a genuine place. Sometimes it's fostered by the fear of growing old or seeing a person having early signs of aging. And it's still, so that's why some people, let's say they're 40, but they don't even want to date people the same age. They go down. It is a thing. I also know that there are some people who date only older people. That is the opposite. It's still, you know, looking at people from their age perspective, as opposed to taking the person case by case and seeing if the person is mature or spontaneous or whatever thing that they're looking for, and they automatically associate with age. So that stuff is not easy to navigate. As such, your psycho-emotional health is going to be extremely important. And here, let me point out a few things. First of all, what is your, how do you keep yourself in check? And in case you have stuff that push or weigh you down, how do you handle those? Do you have somebody to go to for help? Maybe a friend, maybe a therapist, maybe some methods, maybe your Tai Chi or yoga teacher or Qigong teacher. I'm just saying, do you have a pressure valve that you can use anytime you need to, so that you don't get clogged up with that stuff that's going to pile up as time progresses? It's what happens with most of us, because our lives tend to get more and more complicated the more we age also. That's also another judgment around people who are much older, but they kept their lives simple and they try to focus on their joy and spontaneity. They are seen by the rest of humanity as immature, not grown up, not good for I don't know what. A lot of judgment around that. So that's why a lot of people, because they don't want to have those labels stuck onto them, they start to do like the majority. So they start to get their lives more and more complicated. And for that, you need a pressure valve. So do you have it? Number two, what is your mindset? And here I'm going to ask the very tough question. How do you see yourself, sexually speaking, in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s? Or even longer, if you're going to live longer. How do you see yourself from a sexual perspective? This is worth looking into. We all age every single day. So we're at one point, we're going to reach 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. We're going to reach that. And how do you feel and how do you see yourself? How do you conceive yourself, sexually speaking? I'm not inviting you to think of other people. I'm inviting you to think of yourself. Okay? Just you. This is extremely important, and I can't get just around that question. I would probably take an hour to navigate it, but I encourage you to take up coaching sessions for that. However, it is important to realize that you're going to age, and the way you conceive yourself and the emotions that you have now, and the more you let this thought and perspective settle in, the emotions that hopefully you grow to, which will be, I hope for your sake, more balanced, that is an important piece. How you feel or think and feel, imagine and resonate with yourself, the more you progress in your age. Another thing that is important here, especially for your intimate life, solution orientation. The more we age, and even though we try to look fabulous in our 50s and 60s and so on, the body's still gonna, well, it's gonna suffer some natural biological transformations. So it's not gonna behave the way it did when we were 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and so on. As such, solution orientation is an extremely important piece in your entire life. Solution orientation that is adapted to what you're going through. Not many people, I'll tell you that much, are that strategic and grounded when it comes to intimacy, because a lot of us still think that spontaneity and blissful, spontaneous, all of a sudden it should work on its own approach. That one is extremely widespread, and it's not true. I mean, you have to keep your house in check. You have to take care of your body. You take care of your food. It doesn't just cook on its own, right? Unless you are a raw person, raw meat, raw vegan, raw whatever, raw omnivore. But otherwise you cook it. So it's the same with your intimacy. You at a certain point, spontaneity and intimacy is not sustainable. Yeah, it's a beautiful gift for short periods of time, but for longer periods of time, as in your entire life, that we're talking just about yourself right now, it needs a different approach. And it's not bad, it's not unattractive, it's just something to think about and cope with. Otherwise, you might be at the whim of other people, at external factors, and so on. I'm not saying become a freak and control every single detail of your intimate life. I'm saying have some sort of strategy there. Think about it. Now, when it comes to keeping yourself in balance and mental sharpness or mental focus, here I can only tell you this. Aging starts from your mind, meaning how you conceive yourself. The second you start to call yourself old, older, and so on, the emotional association with that is going to come in instantly, and in time it's going to get you to act differently. And if there's one thing that you can prevent, because aging doesn't happen all at once, it's not like when we die, it just happens like that. It's not like when we get injured, it happens like that. Aging doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual. It's constant, but it's gradual. So you have time to adjust to, it's not going to be traumatic. There's one thing that is not traumatic, that's aging, natural aging process. It's not a disease. That's why it's gradual. So disease can also be gradual, but aging takes a much longer time. So you have a lot of time to focus and think in a different way. You're a human being that is alive and that is sexually active. As such, emotions you have the immense opportunity, which is a lot like your entire life, to ground your emotions when it comes to aging and your sexual desirability and your sexual magnetism and your sexual energy or expression overall. It doesn't go out just like that. It's going to stay with you. So the more you wrap your brain around this and the more you adjust emotionally, the easier it's going to get to live a different intimate life. Here, I want to remind you that I'm also a resource. For women especially, the Sex Dojo for Women, there are a lot of programs there. The best one for women is feminine practices. And that's where we work out our entire pelvic floor. And not just that, we work out our emotions, we work out our relaxation, breathing, detension from inside, our pressure valves, circulating energy, and simply just tuning in with our bodies. It's not just oriented around your pelvic floor. So if you're a woman, I definitely encourage you to check out the Sex Dojo for Women. There are times, specific times, when I open it. Get into that. Hop on board once, try it, and if you like it, you're gonna keep it for the long run anyhow. For men, the only thing that I can offer as a resource, one-on-one coaching sessions. And the book, which it can do a lot for you. It can't do everything, but it can do a lot because there are a lot of concepts that you get to shift around your sexuality, and they are going to turn a good investment in the future. Let me tell you that. Definitely, there are many other things that you can do out there. I'm not the only resource. Since you're here, I do want you to know who you are working with and what you can work with. Okay, the third one is how you view yourself. I'm going to get back to the question that I asked earlier. How do you see yourself, sexually speaking, in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s? How do you see yourself? I put on my website an entire photo series and with quotes and all that. And for this particular how you see yourself or the view of yourself, I used a photo of Jennifer Lopez. She's already in her 50s. I could have used a photo of Shakira also. She's also in her 50s, but she looks amazing. So, and if you look at these women, you don't even, like, I don't know what association you have, like what people used to look like in their 50s. But nowadays, because we keep ourselves young and we just allow ourselves to be vibrant, we don't look like the old times, past times, what people look like in their 50s. So the way you view yourself, the way you carry yourself, what you do with yourself every single day or every single week, and I know that's not easy. The more your life is going to get complicated, the harder it's going to be for you to find time to take care of yourself. But if you want to enjoy your life, then the way you look at yourself is extremely important. You're going to sit differently, walk differently, hold your back differently, hold your head differently, make gestures differently, use your voice differently. Heck, even the choice of your words is going to be different depending on how you view yourself. This is not a joke. And this isn't a Tony Robbins channel either. It's the most elementary thing that I know of, and it applies also in intimacy. And I encourage you, because there's so much unconscious energy around. Let me tell you, what we look at when it comes to sexuality, what we conceive is, first of all, the entertainment industry. That is the first thing that comes into many people's minds. Porn, video chat, call girls, prostitution, I don't know. Toys also. That's also from the entertainment industry. That's the first one. Then, if people think about sexuality, maybe some think about the hygiene, contraception, menstruation stuff, part of it. Okay. And maybe clothes. Maybe. Like lingerie, high heels, dresses, which are becoming more and more, what is the word? Minimalist. That's the word that I'm looking for. We're looking at minimalism in clothing style. It's not necessarily bad, but sometimes, I kind of miss sometimes the classical, which can be also very sexual, by the way. Make not the mistake to think that classical is boring, because I don't have that image in mind. But a lot of social media is fostering like pornography 2.0. That's what I see. It's not to be blamed or judged, but if you lose yourself in that, then this is part of the unconscious program that happens out there. We've become the next porn stars on our Instagram accounts, on our TikTok accounts, Facebook not so much, YouTube not so much, but Instagram and TikTok, it's kind of, a lot of that stuff is going towards that direction. And I'm not sure if that's the best thing. It's a thought. The idea is if you don't work around how you see yourself, you're going to fall prey to these things. Not so many people look at their yearly or bi-yearly tests to check their sexual organs and sexual or reproductive system altogether, hormones and so on. And even less or few people consider doing workouts for their pelvic floor, for their sexual muscles. Not enough people do workouts for their entire body, let alone their sexual muscles. But this is also part of how you view yourself. The more you start to consciously work on that, the better you're gonna find solutions to integrate more attention to your sexuality in your life as well. Because otherwise, you're just gonna look at images out there portraying blissful, intimate, happy, orgasmic lives, and then it's gonna be you where you're so far away from it because you don't have a strategy or something to navigate towards that. And point number 4 and last one is game on, always. This one is pretty simple. If you've got the health, so you got that in check. If you've got the psycho-emotional health, you got that one in check. If you've got the skills, we got that one in check. And if you really want to stay active in the long run and you view yourself as compatible with that, and you consider yourself magnetic, desirable, even in your 60s, then the only thing I encourage you to do is stay in the game. Game on. Play with your sexuality. And I'm not saying go out there and sleep with as many people as maybe you think you should. I'm only saying enjoy yourself no matter how you want to. And if at times you don't want to interact with anybody, by the way, that is also cool. You don't have to push yourself in the game if you're not up for it. Remember, athletes also have recovery time. They suffer injuries or they're just tired and they need to recuperate, regenerate, relax. That's part of a good management approach. Yeah. Good management for your sexuality also. You don't have to constantly go out there and run and waste all that energy, especially when you don't feel it. The game includes the breaks and the pauses and the injuries. The game includes it all. Remember that. And just because you've been, with functioning on unconscious mentalities, because there's a lot of stuff that is really not constructive out there, also designed to get you to consume a lot of things. Sexually satisfied people are not necessarily the best consumers. Sexually despondent or sexually frustrated people, they're gonna pay like crazy for all sorts of things that they don't need. If you ask me, game on also includes you keeping yourself in check. So that's why I'm a big propeller of practices, as in proactively building that lifestyle and keeping yourself in check so that whenever, disaster strikes, it's not going to strike that bad. That's part of your prevention, okay? I'm not so much into treating something that already occurred. I'm more into preventing stuff, fostering health, investing in your health while you're healthy. Investing in your sexual flow and vibrancy while you're sexually in flow and vibrant. That is the best place for you to actually decide. And that's the place where you decide wiser, because some people can get arrogant. Okay? There are some people who are in the game and they're arrogant and they take bad decisions, bad management. I wouldn't take that example. Arrogance is one, haste is another one. What is the word? Just irresponsible people, basically, who throw themselves at all sorts of stupid things and challenges because they feel that they're on the top of the mountain, they can do it all. I'm not talking about that. That's not the channel here for this, and I don't have the personality for that, and I certainly haven't seen many people come out well, on the other side when their years of glory and extreme health end. Yeah, it doesn't end well for them. So that's my take on aging and sexuality. It's a very pragmatic, structured approach. I would love to know what you think of this. And this time, what I'm gonna wish for you is a wise and healthy and prosperous intimate life. And I'll see you with next videos.